G'day guys, just a quick update for Rosehill, so a race day update following scratchings. Not too many huge changes. The track's at 6. Hopefully stays in that 5 to 6 range. There is weather around that could affect the day, which is a nightmare. Always race day rain is always not great. So setting up for that 5 to 6 range, and probably any early sort of plays, I'm looking for horses that can handle 5, 6, 7, 8 at worst. And anything else we'll send updates through during the day, but as I said, not too many changes. I'll send this through. I'll send through some info for the Gold Coast. Unfortunately, we lost Kembla Grange this morning, which is pretty common for that sort of area. But go through the races quickly. The first, I thought nothing sort of changed there. I really do think that the Titanium Power takes the front. Cur Royale sits outside it, controls the tempo, probably puts Titanium Power away, and that I Say Hello is the main closer. I thought Kanazawa was a little bit short in the market. There is a query there that it jumped in distance last time from 11 to 1300, sat outside the leader, and obviously went well up in grade and did box on okay there, so can be better suited with that run under the belt, even though it's was well beaten there, like beaten on the turn, and never really looked like winning the race. Or a little bit of an awkward draw, but also could sort of push forward with Cur Royale and find a good spot as well. So I think Kanazawa is the one worth gambling against today for a few reasons, but it's not a given that it won't measure up. And Cur Royale's even shorter in the market, but does look to have a little bit more ability at this stage, but is a query off a 29-day break as well. I thought I say Hello, which is in foal, so they'll be desperate for this horse to get some city winning form in its pedigree before it goes to stud. Is probably the more safe option from a betting perspective. It's pardon me, I think it's the each way play in the race. I Say Hello off a really good first up run, should settle midfield and should be strong at the business end. But not a great race to start the day, but that's sort of how I saw it. Race 2, the favourite comes out here, not sure why. Metallicity really opens up the race. I thought Midnight in Montreal was the one that was worth gambling on if you wanted to play in the race. It's got the blinkers applied, which it didn't have in its trials, and I think that's the most important part. Sort of got a bit flighty there, and more than floaty in the straight, which I thought it was sort of waiting and playing rather than putting in. And that stable's really good at turning those sort of horses around, and with the claim, I would expect Midnight in Montreal to give a really solid sight from out in front. The other good thing about that stable, their intentions are usually to be as forward as possible. So Midnight in Montreal for me in race 2. I thought Street Smarts was also very interesting in the race. Had a run early as a 2-year-old and then 105 days off. So I think that's a huge advantage over others, having that race day experience, experiencing a pace that's not trial tempo. And if it had drawn a gate, I'd have it clearly on top. Just draws really awkwardly here, but just needs some sort of even luck to get across from that wide drawer, and should run really well. Street Smarts. And Mud and Pom resettles behind the leader most likely, or on the fence at worst, and gets a soft run. And the one up the top, Flashing Steel, was the other one that probably trialled in the strongest fashion, but draws horribly as well. So pretty tricky 2-year-old race. I think Gaze is the best way to go if you have to play, and Street Smarts is certainly one you don't want to let beat you. Race 3, my early play here was Absolute Trust. Went through it in detail last night or yesterday in the early preview. No changes to my thoughts there. I think a 5 or 6 is probably ideal. Don't want too much rain, so I dived in there at the early odds just because of the upside to taking that price. I thought it was a silly price. I'll probably send out Banju as a bet as well here. It just looks too well set up, rolls forward, probably sits outside Proscino. I'd expect it to be too strong for Proscino, and most of the other chances in the race are distance queries or class queries. So I really think that Absolute Trust and Banjo are really well placed here to run well. Obviously a few more queries around Absolute Trust with a 33-day break, couple of gear changes, and that's why we're getting better odds about it. But I think it's a pretty talented horse, and Banju's obviously in career best form and should roll forward and run well. Like it's hard to chime in too heavily to the race, and with already being invested in Absolute Trust. but certainly going to at least make Banju a break square situation if he wins and Absolute Trust doesn't finish a place. The knockouts there I thought were Morgenstern with the blinkers on and Warfield at $71 just is worth having an absolute peanut on and not letting it beat you, as it's going okay in the country and he can pop up that trainer. Race 4, the race is all about Sky Command here. Evening Bride came out, which is really disappointing for me, but life goes on, and Sky Command looks to get a soft time of it here. Easy Camp Easy is capable of putting pressure on, I would say, if they sort of mark urgent, but I think it's probably more in its best interest back to this distance to sit outside of Sky Command or just off it and give it its best chance. Eyewitness sits behind, has got those dirty earmuffs on. I think it'll be 2-1 pace to pick them up here, but she does have a knack of getting horses to run well with the earmuffs. Kristen Buchanan. I thought the improvers were Hibiscus Lady with the blinkers going on and the Fossil first up from an 84-day break. Stables just changed to Newcastle and horses look to be going a little bit better and trialled up quite nicely. The other horses are all pretty similar, like take-turn sort of horses, I think, at this level now. They've sort of found their level to a certain degree, or not racing to their absolute best at the moment. So Sky Command's got all the upside in the race, and I thought the Fossil and Hibiscus Lady at odds were the knockouts in a pretty average race. This race is interesting. Race 5, 2,000 metre race. Niffler's 240, Sword Point 270. Niffler's really struggling to put races away the last couple. Now that it's got up in grade a little bit, thought it had every chance last start, and that Horse Casino lad picked it up from last quite easily. Obviously going well, that horse, but just a bad sign for a horse when you're looking at taking short odds. Should get every chance again here, but will it be vulnerable that last bit again? Most likely. It'll be vulnerable to any horse with a turn of foot. Decuri's certainly got that, racing well, drawn well. I doubt there's a lot of tempo in the race, which will suit Decuri. It's pretty hard off slow tempos, and that's probably where a horse like Niffler could be exposed to, because it's one-paced. And I think Sword Point's in a similar sort of boat. You saw last start, it sort of struggled to pick up Sweet Ruby. There was a gap behind, and you can't really be too hesitant and heavy against Sword Point, but big rider change obviously does drop 8 kilos, which will help probably with the sprint, but just a horse I'm a little bit wary of in this race. I just think Decuri's should be favourite or close enough to it, and I think it's still $7, which seems big odds. It's just not a race I've got huge confidence in. Race 6, Four Valor should find the front here. I would imagine that Caesar's Palace takes a sit, and that leaves Four Valor in front and the one to beat. Speed Legend either holds third defence or 3 back defence. Not really worried either way there, as long as the horse settles, because it does get a bit fired up. If it finds third defence and Four Valor leads, I would expect those two to be clearly the horses to beat in the race. Caesar's Palace is racing well, we're on pace there somewhere. Love Planet gets the Norton bit on, Lugging bit off, not a huge change, but yeah, that stable can always improve a horse. Is drawn awkwardly, probably rolls forward with Four Valor, you would imagine, and Caesar's Palace, and they sort of settle in the first 3. Bless could be out the back. It seems very aggressively priced at $3.10 for a horse that just really struggles to win out of turn, and I can't see it really getting a great run here. It's going to have to sort of circle and beat most of them, I would imagine. And Four Valor and Speed Legend are on paces that are racing really well and look pretty well set up and well suited here. So I think they're a little bit better value than Blesk in what looks a pretty straightforward but not value-filled race. Race 7 is a good little race here. I think the Bopper's well and truly short enough at even money, but it finds itself off a good first up win. I thought it was well ridden there after it sort of missed the start a little bit. This race, it looks like there'll be decent pressure. Mr. Mosaic will cross from the outside. Bulletin and will be thereabouts sort of on the inside. Whether it kicks up and tries to pressure Mr. Mosaic is probably the $1 million question, and Princess Rihanna won't be far away either from the inside draw. But I would imagine that Mr. Mosaic gets its chance to cross here and dictate. That'll make it hard to run down. The horse that I wanted to find, but it's going to be in a difficult spot most likely, is Bellucci Babe. Thought it tried up really well. The rider doesn't really inspire me hugely, especially on these sorts of horses. and that'll probably stop me playing in the race, and that's pretty much it for me. I think Amici's the query runner, ran really well first up, no good second up, but can improve with that 42 6-week break in between and a trial since. So Mr. Mosaic, the one to run down, no doubt. Whopper probably closing, and I think Bellucci Babe, if it has any luck at all, will be in the finish. Just again, no value in the race for where Bellucci Babe's going to be in the run. Race 8, we've got Fashionel and Mensa Missile looking to control the speed. Most likely Mensa Missile kicks up and holds the front with the blinkers on. I think it's clearly the horse to run down. I know Ruben Moss beat it a couple of starts ago, but different times in their preparation, and now that Mensa Missile is peaking and has the blinkers applied and should find the fence, I expect it to be very hard to beat here. Fashionel sits outside, runs honestly. Ruben Moss sits behind and runs honestly. Tamerlane gets back. It seems short enough in the market. Super Effort will be in a similar position. Same sort of story. And the others are probably... Oh, the horse down the bottom there, Barry Breeze, is dangerous, especially if they overdo it up front. If say, Mensa Missile and Fashionel declare each other on early, which is possible, but probably unlikely. Yeah, I think the market's pretty close to the mark here. I think the two main chances are probable. I think the main chance, is Mensa Missile. Finding the next pick after it is difficult, but Ruben Moss gets the right run right behind it. And ideally, I would say there's a good chance that at some point Mensa Missile leads, kicks, Ruben Moss gets its chance to the outside, and they'll be the two that will look the winners. Fashionel maybe outside leader, maybe 4 weeks between runs, maybe a little bit one-paced, and those two may get the better of it, and then it's whether Tamerlane or Barry Breeze or something, or Super Effort can run on from behind and beat them. It's but I think that Mensa Missile will control this race for a long way. Race 9, one of mine comes out here in Shadow Crush, but I think Liberty Sun will run well. I've not got a huge confidence in this race, and probably the more I've looked at it, the more I've psyched myself out to a certain degree, but I think it's the one on speed that'll run really well. The others are all sort of coming up in grade or have set up issues with like length between runs, things like that. Key Largo's the horse that everybody will probably want to find here because it's been so unlucky lately, but it's just going to give them a start and has a few things against it. It can still run well. I'm wary of Ocean Emperor today, especially if it sort of jams forward. And if it led with Liberty Sun outside, I'd be happy to be on both of them. I don't think that's any sort of certain outcome, but $17 and $7. That's probably my little play for the race now with Shadow Crush coming out. If I'm playing in the race, it'd be something on Liberty Sun and Ocean Emperor. The rest are all very even for mine in that race 8. And the last is an interesting race. If you can run on here, I'm keen that Irish Angel and Steel Diamond, the stablemates, will come together down the middle of the track. I think Star Cherie's a big risk up to this grade and probably sets a solid tempo. I think Laprise will take care of it if it sits outside it. And then I think horses like Steel Diamond and Irish Angel will be running on. A little bit scared of this horse Celestine, who looked to be having a bit of a barrier trial there first up. No real great intent first up from the long break, and if there's money for it, I'll be very scared of Celestine. I do think that Irish Angel is probably the one to hold out. He loves Rosehill, loves the sting out of the ground, and if he gets a card on the back of one of those horses, like even Steel Diamond, I wish you could swap the draws to be fair, because I think if Irish Angel could pinch runs, it's capable of sprinting a bit sharper and probably very dangerous from the inside draw, and Steel Diamond's more likely to sort of sustain a long run and be strong at the end. So the gates are not great for the horses, but you'd expect Josh to know that on Steel Diamond, try and stay off the fence, and Tom Sherry to go back still on Irish Angel, even find the fence and ride for a bit of luck in the smallish field. I think they're the two strongest conveyances in the last. Laprise probably gets left in front there and is the one to run down. That's about it. I'll try to do it as quickly as possible. Still took 14 minutes. Sorry guys, have a good luck today. I'll send through what I can for Gold Coast and Newcastle, and we'll go from there. Cheers.